Michael, this plant is amazing, and you were just telling me a bit of a story about the history of it. It would be so good to hear the history before you talk about the plant and talk about why it is such a targeted weed.
Sure, certainly. Well, this is an interesting plant because the area around Bundoora here was famous in the late 1800s for being an area that was suffering quite badly from drought, and the local pastoralists were looking at something that they wanted to put in as fodder to get them through the hard times. And they looked at this plant, Artichoke Thistle is the common name for it. It's a daisy. It grows quite vigorously and quite quickly once it's planted into the ground, and the local pastoralists planted this en masse around Bundoora, Thomastown, Epping areas, and we're quite proud of the fact that it was a really good fodder plant. The problem was the following year that it was encouraged to be planted out as a fodder plant, it became declared a noxious weed because the nasty nature of the adult foliage and the flowering parts of the plant, which are really, really nasty and really, really prickly. The involucre bracts, which are the base here of the flowers, contain these really rigid, spiny tips that unfortunately injured animals such as the pastoralist horses, their cows and sheep, and it was became a real issue and declared a noxious weed. And so the very same people that were spreading this weed, the following year they were controlling it under the current legislation or the existing legislation at the time.
So it didn't take them long to realise just how destructive it was. You were talking about the flowerets there and how prolific they are and how they can move so quickly. These ones can fly off when these ones haven't even opened yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So it produces masses and masses of seed across a fairly long period. It flowers initially in the middle. You'll see this first flower spike come up, produces lots and lots of flowers, and then over time other flower spikes appear around and they start to flower and produce seed. So when this first initial flower here is producing seed and the seed's flowing off, this one here, this small one coming up at the base here, will only just start flowering. So it does produce seed over a long period, and the seeds are quite large and they're fluffy and they can travel a very large distance on the air in windy conditions, and they take advantage of any soil that is high in nutrients or disturbed, and certainly become quite a large, robust, competitive weed in that landscape.
So is that something that we should be doubly aware of, that if we're anywhere where there is a little bit of disturbed land, not only these weeds but lots of other weeds might take the opportunity to implant themselves there?
Absolutely. All weeds are opportunists, and they will take advantage of any little disturbances, any breaks in the soil profile, and they will certainly take over in our landscape. A lot of our plants are quite small. They're adapted to the local conditions to a degree, but these things, they don't have any natural predators. They can certainly take over based on just their biology. So how big they are, how robust they are, how competitive they are for nutrients. They can certainly drown out little native grasslands and grassy woodland areas.
So clearly a very important weed for us to be able to identify and inform the authorities as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's pretty easy to identify at all stages of growth, even at the low rosette stage. It has quite a grey foliage, so it stands out against most of the other weeds. And these spines that cover all of the leaves and the leaf junctions and the seed, the seeding areas, so the flower head, the base of the flower head, and the bracts around the flower head, are really identifiable, and they are nasty.
Okay, well, an important one for us to be able to identify. That's great, thank you.